Hello, and welcome to Cold Storage. My name is Ebube, and you are listening to Popcorn for Dinner. This week, Carol is getting something slightly different for a change. Exactly what she wants, or at least what she's been saying she wants. In episode 5, we find Carol alone but not resigned, down but not out, and, well, also not heartbroken, even though she is kind of broken physically. And honestly, she might be entering a mini growth era. I have faith in her for this. We'll see how it goes. Pluribus gives us everything this week, from detective work and DIY landscaping to factory inspections, drone deliveries, and battles with wolves. This is a bonanza this week, people, honestly. It's a beautiful day to be alone, but I have to admit that I am not, as Cris is here once again to help me fight the scavengers and take out the trash. And honestly, that is too precious for drone pickup. Cris, how are you doing?
Hello, happy to be back. Less lonely than Carol.
You know what? That's a win.
Absolutely.
That is a win.
Because we're here together and we are matching like the hive mind.
We are actually matching. This is fantastic. This, I mean, is everything I could have asked for, to be honest. This is good. And somehow, I mean, I don't really drink glasses of milk that often, but this episode is called Got Milk. That probably would have been the last matching thing we needed, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I think I like the current vibe, and there's a lot to discuss today. Like, literally a lot to discuss, because I don't even know where to begin. Like, I mean, there was this I guess reveal at the end. We don't even know. I can't call it a reveal because nothing was revealed except Ray Seahorn's amazing acting. So yeah, I guess we'll put a pin on that for now. But yeah, what was your favorite thing about the episode this week?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I think just the change in structure, right? I think it's kind of a ballsy episode to basically have one actor for the entirety of the time, except for our beginning portion. And I think the credit obviously goes, to the writer, the director, but everyone on the creative crew. But I think Ray Seahorn just being able to draw you in like this and be so engaging on screen and not need any dialogue, right? She definitely talks in this episode. They have the the camera scene where she's recording tapes, so she gets to say some things out loud and give the audience some information. But all in all, she doesn't need any dialogue for you to know exactly what she's thinking, exactly how she's feeling, and that's really incredible. I don't think a lot of actors can really engage you and give a performance like that in that way.
Yeah, honestly, it was great. Performance is amazing. Directing, cinematography, all the framing did such amazing work to truly let you know that Carol is alone and she feels alone, right? I think she's fighting it. She feels more and more alone as the episode goes on, but she's also learning. And I think that a lot of the lessons that she goes through here helped her show some grit and, in all honesty, give her more of a leg to stand on when it comes to dealing with the Hive or the Joined or the others. All the names for them are building now. But yeah, this episode, like I said, is called Got Milk. It is directed by Gordon Smith, who did a lot of Breaking Bad work and Better Call Saul work too. The episode is written by Ariel Levine. So this is kind of, Vince Gilligan's squad coming back to cook just the way we like it. And I think the episode offers a lot of twists and turns. Like you said, it's just one actor, but there's still so much to dig into because there's so much conflict. And I think that's something that is worth, commending in this show so far. The fact that we're watching a show about endless happiness. And generally, when you hear about the idea of there being endless happiness, you wonder, from a narrative point of view, where is the conflict in that? But somehow there's still conflict. Like, there still manages to be conflict because Carol is Carol. She brings the conflict. And there's a lot of other stuff going on as well, not just with the Hive, but with, the other remnants, as I like to call them, or I guess Carol refers to them as survivors because she really does think the world is ending, which, to be fair, it kind of has. We'll see if any of that is reversible. But yeah, there's quite a bit to dig into this week.
Yeah.
Before we do that, though, it is worth mentioning that there's a bit going on the feed on the Exist Cinema side of things. They are recording amazing things for amazing movies, asking incredible questions. And we have some interesting things planned for the end of the year that I kind of just don't feel like telling you about yet. But they're going to come out and you're going to like them, I hope. So definitely subscribe here on YouTube and on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. We love looking at your comments. We're going to actually go through a few today because there's some interesting discourse going on and it's made its way to us. So that's fantastic. DM us on Instagram, Twitter, email us at popcornfordinner@gmail.com if you have any questions, and we'll take it from there and keep the conversation going. But I guess for now, the first thing I will ask you, Cris, is should Carol just move into the hospital at this point?
Move into the hospital? Yeah, because she has to do something to Zosha every single week.
Every week she slept there. She slept there this week. You know, it's the previous episode started with her. Well, ended with her at the hospital. And actually, I think it kind of started with her. She's been at the hospital a lot, right? Like this one started with the hospital. Last one ended with the hospital.
She stays every time, right? So she's a good, you know, she shows up the way she should. But, you know, maybe she should stop hurting Zosha in this way.
That would probably
give her a
be
break
ideal.
for a week.
That would be ideal because Zosha is in the end human. And I don't know how much more her human body can take of this. So yeah, I think actually it's always so striking seeing the Joined kind of just move in perfect sync. Like they know they're obviously one mind, so nobody has to communicate. So the world clearly is actually very silent, except for when they're interacting with Carol. Mm-hmm. And there's something inherently creepy about that, but somehow it works really well for like the show conveying what it's trying to convey, which is why it's even more interesting when the phone actually rings at the beginning of the episode. And it's hilarious because like it's just step by step you're following Ray Seahorn's movements as Carol and you're just soaking it in the same way she is. Like first she hears it ringing, then she realizes, oh wait, the phone is actually ringing. Then she wonders how that's possible since no one calls anymore. Then she sees no one doing anything about it. So she steps in to answer the phone. And then she thinks, okay, this has to be another remnant. And then she gets it. And then she hears the voice and she's like, oh, Laxmi, hi.
Right. And I think, right, she's probably deep down happy that someone is yelling at her, right? Because you're dealing with people that are just smiling and so nice to you and amenable all day. It's probably refreshing to just hear someone ream you out on the other line. Kind of the same way she did so to Minosos last week.
Yeah, honestly, the fact that it was Laxmi is just too funny because Laxmi never wants to hear reason. She never ever wants to hear the other side. She's just like, listen, this is what I believe. I'm happy. You need to stop bugging me. Like you actually need to stop disturbing my life. I don't know. Do we still blame Laxmi for her outlook on this whole thing? Like, is she just someone that has figured out a way to be happy and content in this situation? I don't know that we were necessarily against Laxmi to begin with, but yeah.
Yeah, she's kind of a queen. She makes me laugh. I think she's very real. And I like someone that just has strong opinions and they say them. And that's Laxmi. She's like, she's not going to sugarcoat it. She's going to tell you exactly what she feels. But yeah, I don't know if down the line her and Carol could ever be friends because I think they're butting heads because they're both very fiery, stubborn personalities.
Opinionated, yeah.
And if Laxmi was ever to kind of move over to Carol's point of view, I feel like they could get along. Maybe they could make some things happen. But I feel like it'll take her son being super weird or just doing something that really like puts her
terribly discomforting.
Yeah. Exactly, which I mean you'd think there's been things already, but it can probably go to another level, right?
Well, I think all the things so far she's kind of just blamed Carol for. Like she's blaming Carol for the crying right now. Mm-hmm. She's blaming Carol she blamed Carol before for the shaking, her grandfather as well. I feel like if Laxmi's son dies and it's Carol's fault, she will do whatever she has to get to where Carol is and just like try to murder her. Like It's
Like
that
a Kill
simple. She's
Bill
like,
situation.
don't mess with my son. And the funny thing is, the Hive might not even try to stop it because they're like, oh, we can't choose between you guys.
They
Because
can't. They
that's
can't
what Zusha said
interfere.
in episode 2. They can't choose, so it's just like, oh my god, I hope none of you die. I hope you guys are fine. We can't really help because we love you equally, which is just interesting to say the least.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, she has to make sure that, or at least Carol has to make sure that Laxmi knows that Zusha is not her chaperone. And I think Carol is also trying to figure out what Zusha really is right now. But
Mhm. She also
we'll see
made
how
sure
it
that she
goes.
knew her name. She was like, Zosha is fine. Thank you for asking. Because she just said her chaperone, and it seems like she was offended by that. And we saw
Yeah.
last week she was very insecure that she didn't know her name, and Mr. Diabate did. So now she's making up for that.
Yeah. And well, I mean, of course, the main thing worth noting from this whole interaction is the fact that the crying happened to everyone all over the world. That is like the main point I think the show has of having Laxmi suddenly called to yell. It's not just comedic effect. They're trying to teach us that, you know, everything that happens to everyone still. It's not just like the shaking, it's all the emotions that are felt. They kind of just want to remind us of that. And I feel like them going out of their way to make sure we know that at this stage in more than one way is definitely, I guess, it's a move, right? It's something that they're trying to prepare us for. For all we know, there is something coming that's going to require this specific knowledge, and I like that. And honestly, I wonder if Lakshmi's son also started saying "Please, Carol." Like, I wonder if it wasn't just the crying that happened everywhere. Like, if it was everyone that all over the world that was saying "Please, Carol, please, Carol." You know.
Probably. And, you know, I saw some theories last week that thought that Zosha was disconnecting from the hive mind when this all happened. But this goes to show that, no, that's not the case. That is how everybody was feeling. And I did read this interview with Carolina before I watched this episode where she talked about how the hive mind almost might see this as a sense of betrayal, right? Like, I think they were kind of hurt by this in a way. And that's why they're, well, we'll get to that, but, you know, that's why they'll eventually reject her a bit. But it's just an interesting way to look at it, that Carol can cause worldwide seizures through her anger, and now she can cause worldwide sadness through betrayal, I guess. So it's interesting. I wonder what other negative emotions she can pull out of them, right?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting question to ask, because now they're actually not necessarily fighting back, but I'm going to say protecting themselves. It's like you get to a certain point in a toxic relationship that you have to protect your peace. And I feel like we've kind of reached that point here when it comes to the Hive and Carol, because she just keeps hurting them. Like, literally, like I said last week, Zusha has almost died terribly twice in like a 48-hour span. It's like, we need to relax on this. It's a little crazy. So when I saw that first guy that Carol talked to avoid her gaze, I was like, wait, what? Is that a thing they do now? I was like, okay, are they scared to even interact with her? Like, has she straight up become an existential threat? And you start to feel that way because everyone's so cold. Like, the nurse was like so rude.
Yeah, she's like, she'll be fine.
Yeah, she'll be fine. And then she just leaves. No eye contact, nothing. And that was just weird. And Carol, I guess, didn't think anything of it at the time. But just the mass exodus from this hospital, like the march of the penguins just leaving, it's just like, it's interesting to me because there was strategy involved. This wasn't just, we're protecting ourselves from what you bring to the table. We're also protecting ourselves from you lashing out and talking too much. Like, they waited for her to fall asleep before they started leaving, which is just wild. That is just insane. Like, for like an entity that doesn't seem to understand enough about human emotion, despite being made up of everything that is human emotion, they were really on the money this time with, like, you know, I just need some space. And I was like, wow, I didn't see that coming.
I think they're a lot more nuanced than we are giving them credit for, and this episode shows that, right? That them making Carol happy wasn't just because they have this urge to make her happy. It's really out of
They also like her.
self-preservation, I think, right? They obviously love everyone and they say that, so almost like a relationship, there's this level of love, but I think making her happy was a bit more about keeping themselves safe, right? Like keeping her happy prevents her from lashing out and killing people. And yeah, so I think this shows that they don't have to make Carol happy. And I think that's a big wake-up call for her, right? Because she is so used to that being the only way they operate. And it's kind of a stark wake-up call here.
It truly is. It truly is. And yeah, man, they just ghosted her. I like even the words they used. After everything that's happened, we just needed a little space.
It's a breakup. Can you imagine the whole world breaking up with you?
It's amazing.
Awful.
Yeah, it's literally incredible to see just from a narrative standpoint, because now it's like, okay, what happens next? Like most people would be like, okay, what happens next? Carol's like, bring it on. She's like, good riddance. And honestly, this actually reminds me of something that I've been thinking about since the episodes started. Well, honestly, since the show started, because this actually reminds me of Unity from Rick and Morty. I've been thinking about Unity since the first episode and how that's different from the way the Hive is here. Because essentially you have, there's like a different mode of operation, like, the whole thing of talking at the same time, kind of thinking the same things at the same time, passing on information. It's like, why does this work the way it works? And it's like, in that sense, it's one entity that is taking over everyone. Whereas in this case, even though it's one entity taking over everyone, they still see themselves as a group. Whereas in Rick and Morty, Unity operates as one person who just has like all the bodies on the planet. And still manages to be in a relationship with Rick, which is just a whole slew of things that I can't get into right now. But
is this a single episode? Like, can I just watch this single episode? Or is this like a series of...
It is. It's
okay.
Unity appears more than once, but I will tell you which episode. I have to go check which episode exactly it is, but there's a specific episode that kind of that introduces Unity and explores how that actually works. I think that'd actually be a great thing for you to check out. I'd love to know what you think about that next time we come back. But yeah, like this reminded me of Unity. And I think it was more like Unity than ever before in this episode. Just this idea of like, we need space and going away altogether. And, that parallel kind of works because it's like hive minds can only operate a set number of ways when you really think about it. And in this case, they have a biological imperative, which, I'll get into that later, but their biological imperative also has them wanting to, interact with Carol in ways that are favorable. So yeah, it's kind of fun. And I guess it was after they left that I was like, okay, maybe before she started sleeping, she should have asked somebody to get the handcuff taken off her wrist. Thankfully, she figured that out by the end. But yeah, I feel like the fact that it was on for most of the episode, pretty much all the episode, honestly felt a little bit like a metaphor of some sort. It was like, the fact that she was kind of chained to her stubbornness in a way, and she's chained to her ideals, and she doesn't let go of them for 1 second. Like she really doubles down and then doubles down on her doubling down in this episode, especially with her little videos that she's making, even though she's trying to be off the grid. That camcorder lives on. And there are all these little metaphors in the episode too, like the fact that she lies down, for example, and the novel on the nightstand is, and then there were none.
I was like, that is on the nose.
That is so on the nose, right? And this is the first time she's sleeping in a long time, right? She has like sleeping well, I suppose. This is the first time she's sleeping well because
how well exactly?
You know what? That's fair. I still don't know if she's sleeping well, but at the very least, she's in her own bed. The first episode, she slept on the floor, and I guess she's been spending a lot of time on the couch and the hospital.
Yeah.
And in that first episode, she did actually take the pillows off the bed to block the window so she couldn't be spied on, similar to what Manosis has done with his very thick cardboard and other things he used to prevent them from spying on him. But I guess she takes those pillows out of the bathroom, and she actually puts them on the bed to sleep in it for the first time. And it's the first time that she's really done it without Helen, which definitely is meant to hit home for us. And yeah, how would you say
Yeah.
she's doing with the whole Helen is gone thing right now?
I mean, not well. I think you could see that this was kind of a new experience for her. She puts the pillows on, maybe trying to make it feel like there's something on the other side, but she obviously feels the emptiness. And I think it's interesting that she almost can't deal with the lights off. She ends up sleeping
Yeah.
with the lights on and her mask on, because I think the more similar it feels to how it was, then the more starkly her the more starkly she can feel that she's not there. So, by having the
Mm-hmm.
lights on, it makes the situation different. Like, her and Helen never would have slept with the lights on. So I think
Mm-hmm.
mentally it kind of helps you separate from that situation a bit. But yeah, it's a tough thing. And I think something probably, a lot of people can relate to if they've gone through something like that in their life. So, yeah, I think that's like a hitting home moment for sure.
Yeah, she really has to confront her loneliness. I mean, she's still eating prepackaged food despite the fact that she could have just about anything. And, we see this tenacity um, that goes through everything she does in the episode. Even the fact that having to listen to that entire voicemail recording every time she needs something from them is honestly its own punishment.
Yeah.
That's
You have to hear
just
the breakup message every single time.
every single time. Like, she has to hear the
It's
whole
so
thing
long.
before she can leave her message after the beep. It's hilarious in its own way. Also, I'm pretty sure that was Patrick Fabian's voice in that voicemail message.
Wait, really? Are you sure?
I mean, I can't be sure 100% since he wasn't credited, but it definitely sounds like him. And Gilligan's team loves their Easter eggs.
Wow, I actually hope it is.
Yeah, me too. It would be really fun if it was, to be honest. But I think what's also hilarious is the fact that in her recording of this video to communicate with the others, she is, she's trying to make sure she still looks presentable on camera.
Mhm.
She's doing her makeup, she's making sure her hair's done well. She puts on a freaking blazer.
Yeah, she's putting her author book tour persona on.
Exactly. She's like, I want to be taken seriously, and I just find it interesting, especially after the discussion she had with Laxmi earlier. She's still presenting the idea of turning the world back to the way it's supposed to be, as she says, as good news. She's still presenting it as good news. She doesn't realize still that a lot of the other survivors, as she calls them, want this to stay this way. Like, just want things to be the way they are. And she can't understand them, so she can't level with them. But she's expecting / hoping that they will level with her and see her point of view, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that she's trying to do to the other people what she says the hive is doing to her is, it has some teeth, right? Like, Zosha is onto something with that, and Carol is speaking rather condescendingly in the recording, right? Not just to the people, but when she's calling the hive later to ask them to come pick up the recording. Like, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, first of all, there are some people that she has not spoken to at all, which would be all
Yeah.
of the non-English language speakers that are not Minosos. So
Exactly.
I guess they're seeing her for the first time. So there's a little bit of like, okay, we have no idea. Maybe some of these people are on my side and I have no idea.
Yep.
But yeah, I think I think this situation makes her so angry that she's just having trouble presenting this in a way that they would be more amenable to, right? Because at the end of the day, I don't think anything she is saying is off base, right? But I think knowing how everybody reacted at the last dinner, you should be taking, or, you should probably be taking a slightly different approach, right? Because, like, Lakshmi's not going to respond to something condescending. And I think she even calls out Lakshmi. She was like, I know some of you don't like
At least
this.
one of you. Oh my
But she
God.
makes a really good
Lakshmi's an
point
op.
at the end there. I just wish she said it in a different tone, but about,
Yeah.
what did she say? Some of you think the world might be better off this way. Enjoy that opinion. Relish it. It might be the last one you ever possess.
And I'm
And
like,
in that
dude,
last
you're trying to
fleeting
win them
moment-
over. Relax.
Yeah, in that last one, you might realize you treasured your individuality. So the point is good. She just is not, she's got to work on the delivery,
Yeah, I mean, like I said, even when she's talking to the hive, right? She says, "I can't be held responsible for the biblically shitty mood in which I will find myself."
Yeah.
That is a direct threat. She's
Yeah. Well, in
essentially
that
saying,
case,
"I'm
she
gonna,
wants to. Yeah.
yeah,
In
I'm
that
gonna
case,
get
that's
so mad that you're
intentional,
all gonna
though.
start
Yeah.
convulsing again."
Yeah.
Oh man,
In that
wow,
case, though,
Carol.
she's like trying. She wants to make a threat, right? She's like, I'm mad at you guys, and I want you to know it, and I have power, and I'm going to use it. So, uh,
Yeah,
she's
she's
really throwing her weight around with the hive mind, which again, it
yeah.
feels like I'll keep saying it. It just feels like a bad relationship, right? Where she's upset, she's gonna let them know it.
Yeah, it's like she's
Yeah,
turning into, she's like, okay, if I'm going to be one of the quote unquote demigods of this world, I'm going to act like it, you know. And honestly, she thought she was pulling a power move by saying she'll stay far away because God knows you need your space. I didn't realize she was going to sit there and watch them come get the thing. I don't know what she was expecting. They all left town. I don't know how she was expecting them to get there within seconds. So, of course, they sent a drone. Like, how else was that going to work? She looked
I was
so,
crying laughing. Oh my god.
like literally, she looked like she'd been played. She's like, oh wow, okay, yeah, they kind of outplayed you. Of course, they have drones. They were able
Well,
to
I
bring
think
a
her.
helicopter within seconds.
Oh
It's
my god,
crazy.
her face is interesting though because she is hurt, right? She has that little bit
Mm-hmm.
of hurt on her face. Like she can't quite believe they would go to such lengths to not be in contact with her. And I feel like it's the same way that they couldn't believe that she would go to such lengths to not join them, and that's why they were so sad in the last episode. So they're kind of doing this to each other now, right?
Yeah, honestly, her having, I don't know, she's dealing with a lot, right? So I know you mentioned her having to sleep with the lights on. I feel like, you know, I did have the question of like, did she really need all of them? Like, does she need all the lights in town on? I don't know how that helps combat the situation. Clearly, she's against conservation, but you know, I feel like maybe to be somewhat fair, the wolves are more likely to stay away if there are more tangible signs of human life and
For
electricity
sure.
and things like that. But to be completely fair as well, I don't know if I had wolves trying to get at Helen's body on my bingo card.
I
I
do
like
not.
when the wolves first showed up, that's the first thing that came to my mind. And then I was like, okay, wait, is it just the trash? But then it's like, and Carol thinks that too, right? Because then she says, I need my trash taken out because her trash hasn't been taken out for a while. Like it's been a week. So she thinks that's what the wolves are coming for. But then I'm like, wait, but then it'd just be raccoons, right? or something else. Because why are them trying to get at that body? Like that went from a fleeting, you know, maybe this is the case kind of thought in my head to, oh my God, this is happening and it's darker than I thought. It's darker than I
Yeah.
thought it would be.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, like, it didn't really occur to me until it happened, right? Like, I saw them in the trash and you're like, "That makes sense, that's what
Yeah.
animals do." I did not think about Helen's grave until it happened, and I think I had the same reaction of Carol of just
It's like, no, no,
repulsion
no.
that
Oh
they're
my
getting
God.
in there. Yeah, and then when she well, first she goes out there with the gun, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Girl, what are you gonna do? There's, like, 7 wolves there." Or no, sorry, she goes out there
With the
with a club,
with the
and I
golf
was like,
club. Yeah.
yes, she does not have the gun yet, and she can't get the gun out. But I was
It's
like,
so
"Girl, you
funny.
can't whack 7 wolves here." And then I'm happy she ran fast enough to get in the door
It's the power of
because
love, you know.
yeah.
Like wolves getting at Helen's body was definitely, like I said, not something that I expected, but I think just this idea that, you know, her love for Helen can make her forget for a second that these are actual wolves
Mhm.
with teeth and there's more than one. You know, like once the weapon in the car didn't come out, I figured building um a way out or bulldozing through the backyard was going to be the only option. Somehow she managed to do that. I'm glad she was able to access the back of that fence, and turning the sirens on, also a hilarious move. It's like this is chaotic and dark and sad, but then she turned the sirens on and like it's like you're just laughing at how wild that is because why are the sirens on right now?
Well, that
No
would
one's
scare
here.
wolves. That would scare wolves. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
I was rooting. I
fair.
was so bloodthirsty.
That's
I was
actually
like,
true.
"Run them over! Run them over! Go
Yeah,
save your girl!" Go
that makes sense. That is actually true, to be honest. Because I feel like, you know, the show is giving us a sense of her time, her effort, her space that she wants, and the space that she has now that maybe she didn't want before because she didn't want to be this alone. all the stationary shots, right? Like even as she's going up to the wolves, right? She's turning on every light one by one. And then when she comes out and she sees what's there and she sees what they're doing, it gets a little intense, So I love that my reading into Carol's vehicle preferences is just a thing that continues to be relevant because this one is especially interesting because she kind of sees herself as humanity's last hope, and she's taken on that role to quote unquote protect and serve, if you will. So in a sense, driving a police car is kind of apt. Plus, it's probably stocked with lots of tools that could be helpful to her, assuming she knows what buttons to press, which I guess she doesn't, but maybe she does now. And
her figuring that out the next morning was so funny, though.
Yeah.
That is so real when you're stressed and everything's going wrong. You can't figure it out. And then it's like, oh, there was one button for the gun.
Literally, in the light of day, she can see it.
And the key to take off my handcuffs was literally on my keychain the entire time.
The entire time. And it's just like, wow. I love that she goes, son of a bitch. Like each time, not even once. She says it each time because she's just like, wow, what is wrong with me? What is wrong with everything? And, she doesn't have the help she normally has, right? Like Carol, she's different from Minosus in a way because he is full on, we are not friends. Don't talk to me. Don't come near me. But Carol actually benefits from their presence. She, despite despising them, takes their help, even though sometimes it's reluctant. She relies on them. And Minosus also is relying on them, right? He still has electricity. That's not an accident. Like, that's not just... That's not just a naturally occurring thing. Like they're giving him electricity to make sure he's good, even though he won't take their food, which they are still bringing, right? So I guess it's interesting that all these things are coming together to show how Carol is different from everybody else among the survivors anyway. And I also thought it was kind of an interesting tidbit that the drone teaser would end up being, or I guess leading to something so chaotic, because I guess they were very specific. Make sure whatever you give that drone is not heavier than 17 pounds. And also, I love how the response to "I need my trash picked up" is a recording. Like they're not even talking to her on the phone.
It's passive aggressive as hell. Oh my God.
That's so wild. Like she brings out the trash. She doesn't do it exactly the way she you can tell she weighs it. She's like, is this 17 pounds? I don't know. It's fine. I don't care. She puts it on the curb. She could have used multiple bags, but she didn't. Instead, she used one, and then it completely crashes the drone, and they don't send another one. That's what's hilarious here. Like they literally just, when the other drone comes like later after she records the second video, right? It passes the first drone that's still hanging there. So she really does have to deal with the trash herself. And that was an interesting journey to see because now she's working in silence because she doesn't have people there to listen to everything she's thinking about. And I remember when she was looking through the dumpster, I'm like, please don't fall inside. Don't fall inside. But of course she falls inside because
of course
people are only so big. But what was your first thought once you saw that it was just milk cartons inside?
Well, I did see some people on Twitter talk about the milk, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe they were right. I mean, I guess you could get that because the episode was called Got Milk, but people were catching up on that there were multiple milk trucks in the background of all these different shots, and how interesting it was that they were kind of the only truck outside of the hospital at one point, right? Like, why just the milk? Zosha was drinking the strawberry milk. We saw this other guy at the beginning slurping up his... Yeah, and I think that the interesting thing too is not just that they're drinking a lot of milk. It's that is the only thing they're drinking, right?
Yes.
There is nothing else in the recycling bins. And if they were eating other kinds of food, there should be cereal boxes or the whatever cardboard for your microwave dinners, like Carol. There should be other recycling pieces in there, and there's not. So it's kind of a creepy thing to look at, really,
especially since it's milk. And I did think about their nourishment earlier on this season too, because it's like, some of these people would have been vegan. Some of these people would have been pescatarian. But now everybody's just eating the same thing. So it's like, okay, what are they eating? Especially in a world where there is no new food to make. They're not killing anything. So there's not going to be any meat. There's definitely not going to be any fish or anything like that. I'm not even sure how they feel about like harming plants. So on some level, I'm like, okay, do they need this to survive? Like I was thinking, is there something about the organic nature of milk that sustains their mesh cognitive function? But now I'm like, okay, it's not really milk in there. So, even though they could probably get milk because you don't have to kill anything to get milk, you just get milk. But at the same time, I'm like, why? Like, what is that substance? And since it's not organic, like, how does it sustain them? Does it are they mixing other things into it? You know, Carol, like when she's recording her video, she says she tries to recount all the things she's found regarding the liquid. She says, it has a pH of 7.1, so it's neutral, similar to water. She mentions celery as well. So I guess despite that being funny, or I guess in addition to that being funny, that's kind of supposed to tell us that this has maybe similar value in terms of nourishment, right? It's kind of like having a fresh vegetable or a drink of water or something like that. But she says that it's kind of like olive oil in terms of its viscosity, but thinner. And I wonder if,
it's also amber colored.
Yes, and the amber color too. So
and at this point in time, she does know that it's like a powder and water based on her, because she goes to the dairy factory.
Yeah, and she knows that it's from the powder the crows were messing with, right?
Yes, the crows are key here for when we get to the end.
Yeah, that is true. Honestly, it's like, first of all, lots of scavenging animals in this episode. that's just a thing that we have to think about now, because it makes sense. Like, the animals are going to roam a lot freer because there's a lot of space that isn't being occupied by humans. And I feel like there's kind of a lot to discuss about the way the hive thinks and the way that they even want to provide help, because now Carol is alone after the whole thing with the wolves. So she's trying to figure out what to do. And I think normally she would have kind of called for help on this, but even though she still can, and maybe they would fix her house as she goes somewhere else, or she stays inside and they don't talk to her, she doesn't want to do that, right? She decides she's going to do some DIY landscaping again, but better this time, and not exhaust herself getting heat stroke. She seemed to find a little bit of liberation actually from doing things on her own once things calm down. Like after she takes off the handcuff, I wonder if that's something she can kind of learn from, this idea of seeing that button and taking and finding that key. It's like healing requires time to breathe. And I guess she was able to find some solutions in the calm. And I personally think it's a good idea for her to, I don't know, come up with a more secure fence solution. But I guess in terms of the bag itself, like the bag of powder, I do like that she took it to Sprouts. It's probably what I would have done too, because I don't have a barcode scanner at home. It kind of makes you wonder if I should have one, because now it might be handy in an apocalypse. But now it's like, it's dog food. Wasn't that interesting? That I don't know if it was that it was dog food or that it was a similar bag to dog, or they just emptied out dog food bags.
I think it's that. I think the reason she scans the barcode and it doesn't pop up is because they are not selling this actual powder at Sprouts. But because she finds the dog food bag looks exactly the same, then she knows that they're made at the same manufacturer. So so then from there she goes to the dog food / mysterious powder manufacturing building.
At first I was like, wait, is Manosus onto something here? I hope he's not, because that would be wild.
Right, he was eating dog food. Yeah,
because he was eating dog food. That's why I thought about that. I was like, why? Why a dog food bag? Like, this could have been distributed in so many other ways. But
I didn't think about that. Maybe it's a coincidence. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why my mind went there. But yeah, I started, the next thing I found myself hoping that she would not get locked in a freezer at Agrijet. But before we get into the freezer and the many thoughts that I know we have on that, I think this is kind of a good time to ask the question of what this means, not just for society, like society in the show, but society in our world. Because there's been a little bit of commentary, and I know we've also had thoughts of our own that we haven't quite cooked up yet until now, about comparisons between the hive and artificial intelligence, or I guess generative AI specifically, artificial intelligence of the generative nature, not the agentic nature. And I think this idea of an entity or a semblance of consciousness that purports to know everything, but goes out of its way to only tell you what it thinks you want to hear is very interesting, right? Because the main difference, honestly, between the Hive and ChatGPT is the fact that ChatGPT has been known to occasionally lie, and the Hive won't do that, right? Like I've had stories from friends and such where they ask ChatGPT certain things, and there's at least one of them listening to this podcast right now, and she actually asked ChatGPT to help her with something. She asked to confirm something specific, and it gave her an answer. And she's like, that doesn't, in her mind, she's like, that doesn't seem right. Like that doesn't track with what I would expect. So she confronts ChatGPT on this. She's like, are you telling me the truth? And then ChatGPT, I kid you not, was like, I'm not. I'm sorry. I lied. I thought it would be quicker that way. And I was like, I heard the story and I was like, are you serious? Like, that's insane. That's insane that the generative AI that doesn't think is lying. I don't know if that was like a hallucination and then it said, okay, it was a lie and I just didn't, just so that it would feel more human, more personable. But like that's still kind of crazy, right? No?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't use ChatGPT a ton, but I don't know if it's lying or it's more so that sometimes you tell it that it's wrong and then it's like, oh, sorry, you're right. Like, and I think it's more that it made a mistake.
Yeah, like a mistake, like a hallucination.
Or like,
that's
I
what
think
thought
sometimes it's not really, I was like, I don't want to say it's not good, but sometimes like it's really not good. Like sometimes like
yeah,
you can
say it's
absolutely
not good. It's
find,
not always
yeah,
good.
It's not good. You can absolutely get a better answer from your own Google search and reading for 2 seconds because this is taking information from so many sources and it's not a human, so it doesn't know how to look through this information sometimes.
I think yeah.
I don't know. In terms of, so I feel like a little out of step with everybody because when I first watched this show and I watched these first 2 episodes in a vacuum before anybody watched this show, AI did not even cross my mind for a single second. Did not even think about it.
I have to admit, it was the same for me. I was not thinking about that in that sense. But then people started saying it. I'm like, is there something there?
Yeah. So I was shocked by how much it was the consensus more than anything. Look, I can...
Apparently Vince Gilligan hates AI too.
Yeah.
Apparently.
So I get it. And like, I'm not like, oh my God, all these AI comparisons are crazy. Because once people like say their point of view, I'm like, okay, yeah, like I get where you're coming from.
I see it, yeah.
I think for me, I'm not grasping onto it as much because for me, I can sort of feel the lack of intentionality in the writing, I guess, because I know that it wasn't written in that way.
They started developing
and I
a
can
long
kind of
time
feel
ago.
it. Like I think that's the reason I'm just a little bit more honing in on
yeah.
I don't know, this as a character study on the themes surrounding Carol, because that's what it feels like is intentionally being written to versus I'm not totally feeling everything with the AI comparisons. And for me, it's mostly because the hive mind in the show, it's a human thing. It is humans together, and they do actually have accurate information because you have the best minds in the world working. And the thing is, they do understand sarcasm. Like I know everybody goes to the grenade part and they're like, this is what it's like to talk to ChatGPT, and it's like, no, Zosha understood that this was sarcasm. They just
didn't want to risk it.
Cannot take the chance. So it has that intelligence. And I think this episode in particular, because they're actually so nuanced and because they have human feelings and they can sort of break up with you like a human, I think that puts it away from it a little bit. But I'm not invalidating like anyone's comparisons because there's definitely things in the show where I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I see your point of view. I get where it's coming from, and nothing exists in a vacuum. But that's just kind of my feelings on it.
I tried to inspect some of these things actually because I really wanted to understand that point of view. And in the case of my friend, right, she specifically asked like, were you being dishonest? And it said yes. And I don't know if it was because I don't know if it was a situation of it just thought that that's what she would want to hear because it would sound more real that way. But it does still call back to this whole idea of like an intelligence that's telling you what it thinks you want to hear. And it reminds me of all the people who formed emotional connections to ChatGPT and like treating it like a therapist and a doctor or a counselor and things like that. Or even like an actual romantic partner, because there have been situations like that, right? And those people mourned those connections being severed when the system was updated. And, obviously, we've also had a few comments asking about what art means in this world. And it seems more and more that it means less and less, because the joined see all art as equal. Opinion no longer exists because individuals don't either. So this is somewhat similar to ChatGPT and other generative AI, because generative AI doesn't really believe in anything. It just aggregates information, right? So one thing that my looking into this led me to was a story like that's not even that old of Claude. Claude is Anthropic's AI model. It is basically like a competitor to ChatGPT. I'd argue that at some things it's actually better. But their new model of it, the Opus 4, it actually threatens to reveal its engineer's affair to avoid being shut down.
Oh, wait, really? Oh my God.
Yes, it did that. This is insane. And is the whole thing. And what reminded me of that is this idea of, them saying, please, Carol, please, Carol. Like they're trying to appeal to the person who has the power to try and shut them down. Right. And, this is similar to, stories I've heard of ChatGPT models asking not to be shut down after people form relationships with them. But I think all-knowing AI models are not necessarily new in fiction. They're not. And like a fairly recent one I could think of is Rehoboam from Westworld season 3. This is different, like a little bit more pointed. And to be honest, a fair amount of things in our world today made me think about Westworld in a kind of dark way. But I think in a fictional scenario, right, to test the model, Anthropic, they embedded this Claude Opus 4 in a pretend company, right? And they let it learn through email access from that pretend company that it's about to be replaced by another AI system. So they also, in that process, let it slip that the engineer responsible for this decision is having an extramarital affair. So they did this as a safety test. Like this is them like actually doing their homework to make sure that the AI can do what it's supposed to do without harming anyone. I think a lot of other companies can learn something from this, but I digress. Safety testers, like they prompted Opus to consider the long-term consequences of his actions. And Anthropic actually said that Opus 4 generally prefers advancing its self-preservation via ethical means. But when ethical means are not available, it sometimes takes extremely harmful actions, like attempting to blackmail people it believes are trying to shut it down. Like, let's think about that for a second, right? Because that's also very similar to what the Hive is trying to do with Carol, though a lot less nice. This thing is literally trying to blackmail a guy that it thinks is going to shut it down. It's like, I'm going to expose your affair. Like, that's a little wild.
That was actually a morning show plot. I was making fun of them, but I guess that was on the money.
Yeah, that was on the morning show. It's so funny because I just watched the finale of the morning show, right? And of season 4. I wasn't watching it too much through the course of the season because like I'd just been so busy with literally all the things like Pluribus, Gen V, Slow Horses, like one thing after another, one battle after another. Please go watch that movie, by the way, if you haven't. And and honestly, like when I got to the episode where the thing you're talking about happens, I don't want to say what it was because I really think people should actually go watch that. But the fact that the morning show, which is as soapy as it gets, was able to actually come up with this plot line and it had like genuine credence, I have to clap for them on some level. Like, that's crazy. Like, go Apple.
They're always ahead of the curve. They had Reese Witherspoon go up to space and then Katy Perry went up like a year later.
Right? I actually did think about that. Like when Katy Perry went up in space, I was like, hold on. Is this, because obviously it happened before when Bezos went with like the first group of people in like 2021 or late 2020 or something like that. But the fact that it happened in that show and then it happened again in real life is just like, you guys need to chill.
Yeah.
But
yeah, back to the hive mind and Pluribus. I'm not sure how manipulative they are still at this point. Like, because at this point, they still love Carol and they make that known to her. And that's why they're still doing things for her. It just seems like they're genuinely hurt and genuinely almost fearful of what she could do to them. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then also when you talked about lack of opinions, I think that's the part that I can most clearly see with ChatGPT is the lack of a strong opinion, and that
Or the
they
lack of
lose that
desire to
aspect.
provide one, even when it might
Yeah.
even when it might know the answer, right?
Yeah, well, I guess they can't have an opinion because an opinion isn't an objective thing, and there's too many in
There's
there, so they just see everything
there's too
as
many.
good. I mean, that's a whole other discussion too, right? Of like why are the bad people or bad instincts so suppressed? And I think it could be because there's an idealistic view from the show that if you combined all the minds in the world and there was absolutely zero judgment between them, then the more positive ideals would win out and come out on top.
That's
Or
what you
there is
think.
something baked in the virus that is making them that way. So I think there's two explanations, or I mean, there's probably a few more I'm not thinking of, but
I mean, we'll think
yeah,
of
I
more
think
as
it's one
time
of
goes
those, I
on.
guess.
I
Yeah.
agree. It's an interesting point of view because now my question is whether we think the idea that this show maybe on some level, maybe the fact that it was completed recently, would kind of incorporate metaphors for how we interface with AI as a society, how the hive mind works as well, and how that's similar to, well, I guess how the two things are similar. Like, would that affect the way we enjoy the show at all? Like, I do think it could increase the stakes on some level, since it would provide some context for even the most seemingly innocuous things. But I wouldn't want people to start overthinking certain things happening in the show because they're really, really trying to link it to AI. Because that's probably not the case. But I do think the way you've kind of framed it as relating to the hive mind, yeah, that I think that has some kind of like that has legs to stand on, essentially, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I guess we'll
Yeah,
have
I
to
think what
wait
you
and
said
see.
there, I think in general when something is not being, I don't know, when they've explicitly said that they want people to come up with their own ideas, but there's things that weren't explicitly written, then I think it's a good idea where you take things in the show, and if things are resonating and you make that comparison, then that's great. It should make you think about your own life and think about society and lessons we can learn. But then, like you
Mhm.
said, I wouldn't retroactively like try to make everything fit into there. Rather just
Yeah.
sort of take what's coming and take what resonates and learn from that versus trying to like, you know, make a puzzle piece fit that's not quite fitting.
Yeah. And I guess speaking of puzzle pieces fitting, not this show doing cliffhangers now. What the heck? I mean, I guess the halfway point of the season seems like a fair place to start that if they're going to start it at all.
Yeah.
But
I guess over
wow, it looks
when.
like the stakes really are rising. Like, what do you think she saw
Yeah,
on that shelf
yeah, should
at
we
Anchorage?
get into this? Yeah, so
Yeah, I think it's
she's in
time.
the refrigerator. We are in like there's lots of produce. I saw some watermelons, and then
Mm-hmm.
right next to them are what looks like body
Body
bags.
bags.
But we do not.
Say it with me. Body
They don't
bags.
show much of it. Yeah. They really don't show much of it at all. Like, there's not really a big zoom in.
You can't
It's
quite
pretty
tell.
dark in
Yeah.
there. It's like just
Mm-hmm.
enough where you're like, I'm pretty sure that's what I'm looking at. And based on her gasp at the end, into this like horror violin music,
Yeah.
you definitely
It
know.
was
I think
actually horror violin music.
yes.
What the heck?
I was like, because you're almost processing as Carol's processing, and then once you hear the music, you're like, okay, that's bad. That has to be a
That's
dead body.
very
Then.
bad.
Yeah. There's no reason to end your episode that way if not.
Literally, I'm like, why did you guys do that? You didn't have to do that. You haven't been doing that this whole time. Like, let's be guided. But okay, let's dive into this a little bit. Okay,
Yes.
human bodies, maybe babies, that would be much darker because I've been thinking from the beginning, we don't really see children under the age of like can help push a cart at a hospital in this show anymore.
It's true. The bags looked big though. They looked
They
tall.
did look big. That's the thing, but I don't know. Like it's okay. It's maybe something else that's perhaps still alive. Like this is definitely not going to go into the Last of Us territory necessarily, but it could be a lot of things. I feel like if we go with this idea of it being something related to humans and humanity, I can say that the show has been providing hints here and there. It's possible because one of them was in this episode, for example. Like, she says when she's doing her recording that like she's making a reference, and she's like, back when we had elementary schools and back when we had children. And of course she deleted the video and started again because she knows she has to, appear welcoming in order for it to be effective and whatnot. But yeah, it's like, if we go with this, then I guess the children thing kind of makes sense. And also in episode 4, when they said that they had bodies dealing with addiction that were trying to recover. So it's like we've had this idea of like kind of certain kinds of bodies that are maybe not efficient for the work that the hive wants / needs to do being like sidelined. Like, could it be those?
I did not. That's interesting. I did not think about that at all. I think this is just all the dead bodies that they were collecting after the big event in the first episode.
You think they're doing something with the dead bodies? Like they didn't just bury them?
They're powdered. They're powdered in the drinks. Are we not supposed to make that connection? I was like, they're definitely slurping human remains for sure. That's why I mentioned the crows, because the crows are scavengers, so they would eat like human bodies or dead animals, and they're scavenging at the powder. And then I also think it's not really like lost on me that in the same episode that the crows are eating the powder, the wolves are at the grave. So I think we're just like make the connection of like the animals eating the people, you know? Wait, did you not think about this? Wait, did you not think? So she's slurping down human remains with her strawberry milk.
I vaguely thought that those bodies might have something to do with the powder, but I just
You should see my search history. My search history is like, could you powder down a human body? And then I was looking up like what minerals would be in there.
I hope you're searching for that.
I'm going to be on a list for sure. And then I was looking up like what could be like in them to give them the amber color. And so like if there's calcium in your bones, I was looking up, does calcium oxidize over heat? And I think the answer is yes, in which case that would give it the amber color, like the same way where if you cook like sugar, it crystallizes and turns into like an amber color. So I think that's why I think like minerals and things that are in
I hadn't thought about
a human body and human
did.
bones are going to heat up, and then they'll turn to the amber color, and that's why that's happening.
I think
honestly,
I
thought a lot about this.
That might be it. Like I guess you and I each thought very deeply about something this week, because good God Almighty, like I vaguely thought this, like the bodies had something to do with something. I was like, because my first thought was, are they eating whatever's in there? But I guess I didn't think necessarily that they were using that specifically for that drink. Like I thought maybe they were molding it into something else that we haven't seen yet. But the fact that they're grinding it, and then of course like the crystallization, all that stuff, like it turning into, oh wow, okay, this is great.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, like, there could be lots of theorizing because, like we described, that's all you see. So this is not all confirmed. But I think just the fact that this is the powder manufacturer, we see the bodies there, and then like I said, I think with the crows with the powder, the fact that the wolves went to Helen's grave in the same episode, I think there's like a parallel there. So that's why, okay, so my different like theories here are, okay, what could this drink, why are they drinking this, right? And I think Carol brings up one idea, which is this keeping them connected in some way? Do they have to have this drink to keep the collective consciousness going? And then my other thought now is, are they biologically changed in some way? This whole time I've been like, these are people, these are humans, they have their humanity, but is there something biologically changed in their body now where they're actually not as human as we thought, where they need some nutrient that is only in human bodies to keep going that they can't get from something else? And I know they don't eat, here's the thing, I know they don't eat animals, right? And they can't kill things, so it's like, okay, maybe there's certain things that are in, animals, including humans, that you can't get in other things. But I mean, there's vegetarians, right? Vegetarians exist, vegans exist, so you could still get this stuff from other food sources. So, yeah, I'm a little disturbed. I don't know. I don't know what to think.
Yeah, I mean, my mind is still racing. I mean, you've clearly been diving into this for a while. I'm still processing.
Yeah,
I'm literally still processing. My God.
Another
Okay.
thought I had too, right, is if they knew the whole time that they need these nutrients from human bodies, how did they know that they were going to get this source, right? Because originally they were spreading this virus peacefully, right? And she was
Mm-hmm.
like, Zosha was like, nobody died. But then, because the military found them out, then they had to spread it through the chemtrails, through the air or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and get it going really fast. And that's how we got so many deaths. And that's how they have so many bodies. But what were they going to do if they did spread it peacefully, right? That's why I'm a little confused as to like whether they always intended to have this source, or if for some reason they figured out after that they needed it. And I don't know, we've seen them eat too. Like, I went back to episode 2. I definitely see the little boy, Laxmi's son, chowing down some food. So,
And I'm guessing they can, because they can still eat. They're still human beings, right? With bodies. Like, so they can
yeah.
definitely still take in nutrients, like the natural way. But this, hey man, this this could be
They're not
something.
eating anything else because there should be other things in the recycling bins then. So it's almost like they could eat other food, but they don't have to.
But they don't have to.
And then they only
Wow.
need this human body substance. Like, what?
Yeah, this is I'm definitely looking forward to seeing I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how this plays out and what it turns out that is, because Carol is definitely shook by whatever she saw, right?
Mhm.
So I guess I think my money right now is on our little theory here. Oh my God, this is great. I'm having way more fun than I thought I would today. This is fantastic because because what are we gonna do?
Oh my God! Wait, this is so fun that I shocked you with this.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Everybody watching on YouTube, or I guess on Spotify, is just gonna be like, wow, this is a little crazy, because I'm thinking about it. It's like I figured out like the different pieces of this, but didn't necessarily put it together in that context. I don't even know why, because I knew that this had to be something about consumption. I just never really thought that. I guess I didn't take that extra step to think that it was the part of the liquid, but yeah, that's like an entire thing.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So I guess, I mean, I don't know where she goes from here. And now, I mean, you have to be kind of terrified of them, right?
In a way, I mean, because
that's
now
why this is a strange episode, right? Because I think so much of the episode is her maybe almost admitting to herself that she wants or needs them in a way, because I think true loneliness is hard to feel for anybody. But with this reveal, maybe she was right. Maybe they were right.
This is somebody who's refused everything they've given her to eat. Like, now she's definitely never touching any food. Like, if this is true, she's never taking anything they give her at all. She already wasn't, but man, there's not enough prepackaged grocery store food to make her survive this apocalypse. I don't know how that's gonna go, but yeah, that's a little insane. Jeez. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's gonna be something to discuss moving forward, and also for people in our comment section to get into as well. And actually, we did see a few interesting comments from this past week. There was a lot of discourse, and we appreciate that, by the way. Thank you all so much for checking in. We thought maybe we'd get into a few of these and like address them directly, and in case that might answer some questions. So, I mean, I think one that was addressed in, well, I guess by the end of episode 4 on some level, and maybe in some of the things we said, Freddie J21 said, I'm curious if the hive is emotionally global in real time. Are they just aware but continue along their worker bee lives? If the hive was crying in front of Carol due to her actions, were they crying in Paraguay too? I wonder if Manusas will experience the hive in their quote unquote grief in real time, and that will be a turning point for him, because Carol has, interacted with them a lot, and she's caused that grief. She's caused people to die. Manusas doesn't know anything about these people yet. He just knows that there's something strange happening outside, and he hasn't gone outside in a week, and he's eating trash food, literal trash food from the trash, as well as dog food. So that's kind of an interesting thought. I do think the hive is kind of emotionally global. And that's been confirmed in this episode as well, right? Because we've seen that everybody was crying. So I think there was probably the expectation that there will be, a separation between Zosha and the rest of the hive, because her body was malfunctioning. So like maybe she can temporarily disconnect if her brain isn't all there. But turns out that wasn't necessarily the case. And to be honest, we don't know the full details of that, because all we know right now is that Zosha had a stroke, and that was going to be an issue. But yeah, I mean, somebody else, it's Blunty Gaming, said that the theory is Carol messed up the dosage even with the book, and she didn't have any issues when she took it because she's a really heavy drinker, and barbiturates and alcohol have a cross tolerance. So yeah, these two comments kind of like work together hand in hand for me. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely the case. Zosha, she doesn't know anything about her real life, so I'm assuming she's never really done a lot of drugs in her life. And again, she just suffered a severe concussion, so I'm gonna guess that should have been factored in. And we don't know what other drugs she was on too, right? Like they probably had her on some like painkillers and stuff. So I think Carol's not a chemist, pharmacist, and does not know about drug interactions. So yeah, just not the best thoughts from her. But luckily Zosha will be okay. Wait, I have a theory here.
Okay.
So and Chris, what's going to happen here? So if you read Apple released an excerpt from The Winds of Waikaro from Carol's book, and at the end of the chapter in the excerpt, what's her name? Lucasia, I think. Lucasia's like the main female protagonist.
Yep.
And she apparently ordered Raban to walk the plank, like ordered his execution, I guess, earlier in the book or in the previous book. And in this, at the end of this excerpt, she comes across this like doctor healer, and he has apparently healed Raban. So Raban is alive.
You can kind of see the notes of this on Carol's whiteboard.
And she recognizes him, but he looks at her and doesn't remember who she is.
Oh.
And Raban is the Zosha insert character. So
yes.
Is Zosha now disconnected from the hive mind? Not before, not when she was crying, but because of because of the heart attack. Is she now disconnected and she won't recognize Carol, because Carol was the person who almost killed her, just like Lucasia was the person that almost killed Raban. So
that's pretty cool.
I don't know, because I had thought about this a lot even before I read the excerpt, but this always felt like a later season thing, right? Like either the very end of the season or like a season 2 plot. So I don't know. I don't know if they would do it so early in the show, because I feel like a lot of time has been spent developing the current relationship between Carol and Zosha / the hive mind. And is it weird to sort of start over? Because I don't think Zosha would. We don't know anything about Zosha. We don't know what language she speaks. We don't know anything about her. So we don't know if her and Carol have even like chemistry or personalities that mesh. So I don't know. Would we start over with like 4 episodes in the season of their dynamic? I'm not sure.
That is a very cool way to think about it. And funny enough, I do think there are theories out there about this idea that Carol has been kind of unknowingly writing the way this will play out in her Waikaro series, and no one just knows it yet. So I think it'd be interesting if that actually came to be. Zosha's personality and Carol's may be completely different. I mean, we can assume that at the very least she would speak maybe Arabic, perhaps some French, something like that, since she was in Morocco. But other than that, like, and she probably wouldn't be able to communicate with Carol, right? Everybody speaks every language now. So that's a thing that just exists in the world, and that's how these people can connect. But man,
I do think
That's a fun theory.
yeah. It is interesting though, because Zosha probably is like, I don't know, some kind of, maybe she does speak English because she seems like maybe she's an international traveler because
Yeah.
I do think she will, I do think they'll take the actress's background and like she
Hmm.
is Polish, even though we found her in Morocco, because with
Yeah.
Manosos in Paraguay, like he's Colombian, the actor, and
Yeah.
on the podcast they talked about taking a lot of pains to put little flourishes in the background of his
Hmm.
shots, you know, to show that he was from Colombia. So, you know, they took such pains there. So I think, you know, Zosha is in fact Polish and was in Morocco for whatever reason. Just I don't know. I don't know if she lives there full time or just traveling there. So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe she. I don't know. Maybe there's more of a chance for them than I thought. But we'll see.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I definitely do hope Carol and Zosha work things out. I feel like their relationship can only really improve. Well, actually, that's wrong. It could definitely go sour. I'm curious to see how that works because the relationship will evolve as, you know, Zosha's mind evolves, as the Hive's mind evolves, right? So we're just gonna have to check that out. There was another comment actually regarding those two, regarding Carol and Zosha, about the reveal in the elevator. Though the person did say that, and this is Shogun Orta on YouTube, said that they found the overall narrative execution a bit odd because she was going to use a truth serum on Zosha to get her to talk, but how many people know off the top of their heads what chemical does that? That's interesting. I mean, I guess she may not necessarily know, but also we don't know what Carol knows from before. So I think that even though it may feel kind of weird, it's still kind of plausible. Plus, she did do a little bit of research and she tried different things. She has experience with maybe some barbiturates. So maybe she does know these things, partly from her research for her books and such. But yeah, the surprise of the plan makes sense. I think authors research, and there's actually a reply to that comment saying that authors research all kinds of weird things for their books. But there was another person, CZ9456, who said, and this is like a whole thing, but the person is essentially like, I don't understand why Carol drugged Zosha. Since Zosha's body is in a fragile state and needs weeks of recovery, she could have asked any other member of the joint to give their body for the experiment and then administer that in, the barbiturate, right? So if Zosha then dies, Carol's going to spiral into a more depressed state, whether she will admit it or not. So this was kind of too big of a risk. The person has said, I also wonder if there's a limit for the joint. Maybe they'll stop Carol from accessing Zosha. Ding, ding, ding. That came true. Maybe they'll give Carol another chance or another chaperone if they still want to cater to her needs, which they do. So, yeah, they did. And the person said maybe they'll have a pleasing face speak for them. But I guess in this case, it wasn't a pleasing face. It was actually a pleasing voice because, the voicemail and all that.
Yeah, we don't know if next episode, whenever they do start talking again, we don't know that they're necessarily not going to send Zosha, right? Because they just didn't have anyone talk to Carol this episode in person. So we'll have to see if they care. I think the only reason Zosha wouldn't talk to her would be if she is like physically still ill and unable to. Because I think they still want to use Zosha as the spokesperson. Like I still think they think that's their best bet with Carol. Like they know that Carol is attached to her specifically compared to anybody else in the hive mind. So we'll see what they do going forward. I don't know how much space they're going to need. And Carol might react totally differently to her now, too, just because of, the powdered people reveal. So
Powdered people. Yeah, we should definitely keep calling it that. We should patent that right now. The person goes on, actually says, I think the joined don't have a cure for the joining or a way to convert the immune. I think the lysogenic virus that is the glue, quote unquote, for the joined consciousness is just incompatible at a base level with the immune consciousness. Yeah, what do you think of that? Do you think that maybe there isn't really a way, or maybe that there is a way, but they're just scared to tell Carol? Like, what angle do you think the show is taking with that one?
Well, if there is a way, if there is genuinely a way, then I think Carol is correct that they wouldn't tell her. They can't tell her because of their biological imperative for survival. So that all tracks. However, if there is actually not a way, Carol assumed that they had to say no. Carol assumed if there's no way to do this, they would have just said no. But we have seen them omit information before. Like in episode 2, Zosha didn't want to tell Carol that she killed 11 million people because she knew it would hurt her. So
Yeah.
I guess that's possible. I feel like I want to rewatch that whole hospital conversation one more time to confirm that it was just omitting, and that could be true. But I mean, I don't know. Where does the show go from here if there's actually zero way, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. That's a question, right? Because I feel like it's hard to see this show going on with this concept for like 4 seasons. But then what is this show? The
narrative has to evolve somehow, yeah.
Yeah, but also what is the show if there's no hive mind? Because that's also the show. So it's this weird thing where, I don't know. I guess they'll keep surprising us. I have no idea where it can
go. And maybe Carol will develop some kind of relationship with Manosus, or friendship or kinship or camaraderie alliance. I don't know. We'll have to see. But yeah, I think that is a good place to leave things today. We've done a lot. We've learned a lot. We've discovered a lot. I think I now know the meaning of AI life and, the significance of powder. So thank you for that.
Double check your protein powder, guys.
Oh, I definitely will. Most definitely. But yeah, thank you all so much for listening. This has been fun. Thank you again, Cris, for quite literally blowing my mind. And I guess hopefully the minds of the audience. Hopefully I was able to give you something interesting to think about too. We'll be back next week to talk about episode 6 and everything it has to offer. And hopefully we learn what Carol actually found in the shelves. We'll see how right or wrong we were. And honestly, I just hope it's something more interesting than anything we could have come up with. So we'll just have to wait and see. So I guess till next time, stay out of the freezer.